Everybody ready? Here we go! Drop the ramp! There's no cover! That was an order, goddammit! Drop it! Over the side!
Once a franchise known for its World War II stories and gameplay depicting infantry combat and war, Call of Duty hasn't returned to its roots in quite a while. In fact, it's gotten far away from them, with the last 3 entries in the annual shooter each being a giant step away from the traditional combat and grounded storyline. For many, Call of Duty is an annual purchase. Traditionally, the shooter has seen minor differences to the gameplay mechanics, a change in setting, and some other tweaks to the formula to warrant the purchase for fans. In recent years, Call of Duty as a series has seen a huge shift in terms of gameplay, introducing new jumping mechanics that allowed for more vertical movement. The last 3 games in the series were big steps away from the traditional. With Sledgehammer Games at the helm this year, Call of Duty looks to return to its roots in the aptly named Call of Duty World War II. With a campaign that takes a band of brothers storytelling approach, a return to boots-on-the-ground multiplayer gameplay, and a zombies mode that allows for the former Dead Space developers to revisit their ability to deliver jump scares, Call of Duty World War II is one of the more compelling and well-rounded games for the series in recent memory. Perhaps the most tactfully handled Call of Duty game in years, Sledgehammer Games dramatizes the actions of a 12-man squad in the American 1st Infantry Division and their role in numerous battles of World War II. A story that takes you from Omaha Beach to the Rhine, this game doesn't alter the events of history, rather tells the stories of friendship and brotherhood formed during the war from the perspective of this group. While it still features all the bombast of recent games, there's much less of a focus on a single antagonist here. There's no diabolical terrorist to stop. We all know how this story ends, but Sledgehammer makes smart choices by really drilling down on one squad in the war, focusing on their trials and tribulations. The gameplay hammers home the importance of the squad around you. This is something entirely new for modern Call of Duty games. Your AI-controlled squad mates must be utilized for their different abilities. This includes things like ammunition refills, spotting enemies, calling in airstrikes, or refilling your health. Unlike recent games which relied on auto-generating health, Call of Duty World War II forces you to rely on these teammates in battle. For the most part, this system works and is a breath of fresh air for the series. Only problem being that it's such a big deviation from what fans are used to that it can sometimes be hard to remember all of the different abilities that your squad can perform. The campaign for this game features a number of different mission types, from all-out mayhem in storming Omaha Beach to more stealth-oriented missions that have you teaming up with special forces from other countries. There's certainly a good bit of variety. It's got your obligatory driving missions, tank missions, turret sequences, and just about every other scenario that's been thrown at you in a modern shooter. While that might sound dismissible, it's quite good how it all comes together. There's enough variety in terms of the narrative structure and the gameplay missions that the campaign never wears out its welcome. It doesn't have time to. It's the perfect size to tell the story it wants to tell, and during that time, players will get treated to one of the best looking shooters that's arrived from Activision this generation. Sledgehammer Games is well known for their entries in the Call of Duty series now, but their roots come from the survival horror genre. The co-founders of the studio both worked at the now defunct Visceral Games and are responsible for the highly popular Dead Space series. With this iteration of the zombies mode in Call of Duty World War II, it seems that Activision has given Sledgehammer the green light to make something of their own. While this year's iteration of zombies is a mode called The Final Reich, it's similar in terms of structure to other cooperative zombies modes in the series. But there's a definite survival horror stamp on this game, as well as a tighter narrative. The mode features a prologue which introduces us to 4 treasure hunters reclaiming the treasures that Nazis seized during the war. While on a mission, they stumble across the abominations that the Nazi regime has engineered in undead Nazi soldiers. Yeah, it's not an entirely new premise, but Sledgehammer really goes all out with this mode in terms of character models, trying to give the game a more creepy feel. This definitely does feel more like a survival horror game than it ever has before. Zombies will pop up out of nowhere, offering jump scares throughout the wave-based affair. A coupling of grotesque character models, awesome sounds, and this tension make for a great experience. This zombies mode is also deeper than what we've seen before. While fans of the mode will find all sorts of challenges within the map in terms of secrets, Easter eggs, and progression, there's also a much broader customization element than other games in the series. Weapon parts can be collected and stored for later use, your characters can be outfitted with special abilities that charge throughout the matches, and there are custom perks for each class, as well as consumables that can be used. The mode has come a long way since the original Nazi zombies arrived in Call of Duty World at War. Sledgehammer does make this mode a little bit more accessible than other games in the series. While they don't go so far as to give you all the answers to their riddles, they do a good job of showing you the way to your objectives. If Infinite Warfare got one thing right with last year's game, it was the variation found in zombies. While they were lighthearted and fun, Sledgehammer plays a stark contrast here in terms of tone, while offering the same type of depth and secrets to uncover. The final part of this equation, and possibly the most popular, is the competitive multiplayer. The return to World War II strips the wall running and jetpack boosting out of the game, slowing the pace and keeping players grounded. This style of competitive play feels like a return to form for the series. Call of Duty World War II very much feels like a throwback to the good old days of the franchise. It's familiar territory, and Sledgehammer doesn't necessarily go out of their way to reinvent the wheel in terms of gameplay or map design. As the gameplay has changed with the removal of jump packs, maps are certainly designed with this in mind. They feature more flat settings, with a number of variations on the tried and true 3-lane approach. There are some standout maps in multiplayer. Some of our favorites were the USS Texas, the London Docks, and Saint Marie du Mont. In fact, almost all the maps in competitive multiplayer have their place, though it's easy to see that there are certain map shapes that work better than others when it comes to the game's spawning system. Where Sledgehammer does take some risks and makes healthy additions to the game is in new modes for multiplayer and the new headquarters social space. While the battle-tested modes like Team Deathmatch, Search and Destroy, Kill Confirm, Domination, and Hardpoint will likely be the most played content in the game, the new War mode is something brand new. Here you have 3 unique operations that have players switching off attacking and defending objectives. The settings are unique, and it's a nice change of pace to the traditional Call of Duty formula. A standout war operation is Operation Neptune, which has you fighting on Omaha Beach, attacking or defending the beachhead. If you're looking for something different than anything Call of Duty has shown us in the past, this objective-based mode is certainly that. Regardless of the mode you play, Call of Duty World War II is still very much also about character progression, customization, and Sledgehammer appears to be attempting to foster a better community with their new headquarters mode. This is essentially a main hub for all of your online activities. Instead of a system of menus, this social space has been developed that allows players to perform their customization and progression tasks, while also allowing players to compete in different events with one another. Things like prestige are handled here. Contracts and orders can be taken on that ask the player to tackle specific objectives for different types of progression rewards. There's even a gun range and a one-on-one versus arena for players to play competitively. Whether it actually accomplishes its goal of making Call of Duty a less toxic social space is anyone's guess, but it's a step in the right direction. Whether you're all about that multiplayer life or just want to check out the sights and sounds of the brilliant campaign, Call of Duty World War II has something for everyone. While last year's Infinite Warfare may have been the biggest misstep the series has made in quite some time, World War II comes in to save the day at exactly the right moment. It's a reminder of all the things that have made Call of Duty so much fun in the competitive, cooperative, and single-player spaces. While we may never see the lofty highs that the series has seen in the past in terms of mass adoption for the Call of Duty brand, Call of Duty World War II is a good reason to come back to the series if you recently put it down or were turned away by Infinite Warfare.
Give me your pistol!